Good morning. I'd like to start our Ways and Means Committee meeting for May 23rd for 9 a.m. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Boyd, Alderman Vaccaro,
Present.
Alderwoman Howard,
Present.
Alderwoman Spencer, Alderwoman Boyd,
Present.
Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Middlebrook,
Present.
Alderwoman Evans,
Present.
Chairwoman Davis.
Present.
6 present, you have quorum.
Thank you. I saw in the Google Drive the minutes for May 19th, but I didn't have a chance to go back and look for May 18th.
Yes, ma'am, both of them should be in a drive.
Thank you. Let me check real quick.
Mhm.
Okay. The chair will accept a motion to approve the minutes for May 18th and May 19th.
I move we accept the minutes for May 18th and May 19th, Ways and Means.
Second.
Seconded.
It's
Second.
been moved. Okay. It's been moved and second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd, Alderman Vaccaro,
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer, Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Middlebrook,
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans,
Aye. Aye.
Chairwoman Davis.
Aye.
6 aye votes.
All right, thank you. We've approved our minutes. As we, before we get started this morning, Alderwoman Howard, will you be in a position to chair the meeting? I'm going to leave at 9:30.
Yes,
Alderwoman-
I'm available to do that, but I need to talk to you about tomorrow.
Okay.
We can do that offline, maybe later.
Yes, ma'am. We can definitely do that later.
Okay.
I also see that I'm hoping everybody is keeping up with our schedule. On Wednesday, as you see, we'll meet in the morning, we'll break, and then meet in the afternoon. There's also, today, I see that we still have our public safety department is listed. As you know, I think there are 12 or 13 different departments under public safety. So it'll be a moment before we finish that. So I see that. Heather, are you on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So there was, I saw building division on for today, and you have building division on for, I think, is it Wednesday of this week as well?
I only have them listed for today. And the fire department is coming back. They were rescheduled for the 31st.
Okay. So that's good. I'll double check because I saw the building division in 2 places and I wondered about that. So I'll check on that later on. Also, we have, before we get to you, we also have Jared Boyd listed and Nancy Cross.
Mhm.
But I'm going to always try to remember to start off with Paul Payne because we want to make sure that he has not discovered anything or there's something new he needs to share with us. So Paul, do you have any information for us this morning or you're just ready to listen?
Well, good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. No, there's no developments recently, so I think you're good to go.
All right, thank you, sir. Jared Boyd, did you have anything that you wanted to share this morning? Jared, I thought I saw him on. Okay. Nancy Cross. Okay, we'll move on. So Heather, why don't you go ahead and get started?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. I have on the line today with us is the Buildings Division, of course. We also have SEMA as well, and we have the Civilian Oversight Board. I'll be presenting for the Civilian Oversight Board. I do have an appointment at 11, unfortunately. I don't know if it's proper protocol for me to go first with the Civilian Oversight Board. If so, I would like to start with them and then move on to buildings, or we can do buildings and move on to them.
You can present as you feel necessary. So if you wanted to do oversight first, you can.
Okay, thank you. And I also have in place of me is Carletta Fielder. She's a fiscal manager. And then I also have our senior person who's been here the longest, Frank Oswald, the buildings commissioner, who can kind of direct the meeting. He's very familiar, and I know I'm giving this to you at the last second, Frank, but you're very familiar with city rules and hearings more so than I would be. But Carletta is on the line as well in place of me, and we also have our executive assistant one who's on as well, just in case I have to leave before the 11 o'clock time frame.
Okay.
So we'll start with Civilian Oversight Board. The Civilian Oversight Board has, if you look at the budget, it's pretty robust this time. Some of the significant things within this budget, first off, the Civilian Oversight Board currently has about 30 whistleblower complaints, about 130 active complaints as well. They also now receive Department of Corrections, City Justice Center complaints rather, and also complaints from the police department per the executive order. So they have a lot of complaints now compared to years past where they had probably a third of those numbers that they were receiving. So with that, and there's pending legislation. I have no control over the pending legislation, but I wanted to mention some of it would give the oversight, complete oversight for the most part to the Civilian Oversight Board. Currently, in this section, we have one staff member. We have one right now, that's a legal investigator one. We have a new commissioner that's coming in. And with these new hires, this will allow us to investigate these complaints, which would break it down to about 10 complaints, somewhere around there per investigator. I'll start with the executive assistant one position. That position was added to add more management to assist the Civilian Oversight Board Commissioner with executive functions, with policies, procedures to overlook all of the investigations as well as the commissioner as well. There are a lot of cases and you want to make sure that you're following them correctly. And so that's a high level position we felt we needed in this section. The other high level position was a government service analyst. And we wanted this position because there are a lot of functions that have to connect with each other within the Department of Public Safety and within intergovernment as well. This position is to work closely with SLMPD, corrections, the B of A, just a number of things that we wanted that position for as well. And traditionally, administrative functions are critical. What we wanted to add here was an administrative assistant 3 and 2. There will be 8 annual reports instead of 1 report that will come out of this section. So there will be quarterly reports, making sure we're reviewing them. The data, the follow-up with all of this is critical from an administrative standpoint. So that's why we have those 2 additional positions. Also, there's a human resource specialist. We know that a lot of the things that involve these investigations can end up as a personnel matter, where an officer or a corrections officer or whomever is placed on forced leave. So we want someone that has a skill set with personnel, understand the human resource side of it, so that when these cases, some of them probably will end up in court, that we have someone that is experienced, that's knowledgeable of the personnel, the regulations and the rules with personnel. The client service coordinator 2 position, this was a community need that was brought about because a lot of times you have families who are in these situations where it may be an officer involved shooting, and you have a family, to make sure that we're following up with notifications, resources, and also assisting with the complaints that come in. Just because there is a complaint, it doesn't mean that it's a legitimate complaint, meaning that it actually happened. So some of these situations, we have people who are mentally ill who come in and stop into the office. We want to make sure we have someone that has a social work background at a higher level. So we chose a client service coordinator 2 to follow up with citizens' complaints, to follow up on the resource end of it, outside of the actual investigation where they won't be involved in that part of it. The legal investigator 2 positions, those are high level. Right now we have legal investigator 1s. It's always been staffed with legal investigator 1s. And this position here will actually do the actual investigating. These are the people that will go out, speak, obtain records, search warrants, subpoenas, things like that. And they'll be testifying in court on these proceedings if they're challenged, and then at any hearings with them. So that's the makeup of the actual job classifications. What we did in here, we sought out more funding for office equipment. They have to have a location where these new positions are going to be assigned. So they have to have a desk, they have to have a computer. We wanted to do that. And when we thought about computers, we wanted to do something where they're going to be in the field as well, to have some type of device that will allow them to be in the field at the same time, that can function and remote into their actual desktop computer. So in here, there's a substantial increase in here from 0 budget to 30,000 and under office equipment as well. Under here, we also increased Regis. Regis is a critical part of anybody that's a legal investigator. So we added funding there in that amount. And legal services, we increased that because we know that this is going to be something that's going to be extremely new. It may be challenged in court, and we wanted to make sure that we had funding in the budget for just that. So this section went from having, I believe, a total of 5 positions assigned with an executive secretary, 2 legal investigators, the civilian oversight board commissioner, and there was another administrative position in the budget for corrections investigator, to having what we have now. So that's the gist of this, the COB budget, if you have any questions for me.
Okay, so we'll go through the committee for questions. And what I wanted to share with the committee, on our last meeting, we really got off topic an awful lot. And I'm hoping that we can do a lot better, because we do have all these staff people who are away from their daily assignments to make these presentations. And when we run over too much, it really interferes with their workday. So I'm hoping that we can stay very succinct and on topic, and try to move that part of it in an expeditious way. Not saying I don't want anybody to ask questions, but I really need us to stay on topic. That's critical as well for the people who are presenting, because they come prepared with budget information, and we did spend a lot of time on things that they weren't prepared for, and it wasn't about the budget. So hopefully we'll get that done. Also, I wanted to ask if I could go first, because I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Carol. My only question is, as you, once your new department head gets in, will you all take the opportunity to sit down and review all this in case we need some additional things? That's my question, Heather.
Yes, ma'am. We've met before. We've hired someone in this position now. They cannot begin until June. However, what we've been doing is meeting ahead of time. We have a number of complaints that we have to review and get through with the legal investigator one, plus the new commissioner that's been hired, myself and Dr. Isom to get through with their staffing, location of where they're going to be staffed, and a number of logistic issues too. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's very good to hear. That clears up a whole lot. I'm so excited about this department because it was fragile. Earlier did not have all that you needed. And this sounds good. I think the citizens are going to be pleased, as well as the employees. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Carol Howard, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, and we'll just go down the list by seniority. Is Alderman Boyd on the call? I don't think he responded.
He didn't respond.
Okay. Alderman Vaccaro.
Yeah, no, I have no real questions. I think it's a good thing. I'm certainly aware of it. And like I said, I'll be in and out only because I am at the doctor's office. But since I'm in the waiting room, I can answer right now. But anyway, I have no real questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Alderwoman Spencer. I see your questions.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I just wanted to comment that I'm glad we're funding, that there's an increase in funding for the Civilian Oversight Board. I think obviously getting through those 100, I think Heather said 123 cases still pending is so important. I did have a question about it. It looks like the travel and education budgets are increasing significantly, almost $100,000 or $75,000 collectively. And I wondered if you could just help us understand what was going on there.
Yes, ma'am. So I forgot to mention it. That's why being senior and knowing how to do these hearings is so critical. This is my first one, but definitely with the travel, because there's actual standard travel courses that that each year that they're required to take. There's a forced investigative training course that's not given locally. Very few of them are given locally. So they will travel, each one will receive, each new hire for legal investigator 2 will receive training, and that training unfortunately is not local. So it's generally out of Chicago and some other locations. So that's what that increased amount is for, to cover their travel and the actual training, because we want to ensure that they have extensive training, because these will be cases that will be priority for the city.
So the $75,000 for travel and training is for the members to get training, the appointed members of the board?
So they're not for the members. This will be for the actual staff, the
staff.
For the job classifications for legal investigator 2, which is a new position. Some of them will have training already. There'll be high level hires, but they'll actually have to receive training on investigating, officer involved shootings. It could be an in custody death at the correction center. We want them to have extensive training so that when it goes to court, that, the challenges with it going to court are, we have the right training to do it, and that some of the challenges are overcome because they have the significant experience to do the job.
Okay, so this is for like 5 staff members then, I guess, that, it just seemed like a,
No, it's for like 10. It will
10
be for like
staff.
10. So we
Okay.
have a legal investigator, one we just hired last week. That person will have to have this training as well, force investigative training, use of force training, things like that. Also, we have the eight legal investigator 2, all of them will have to receive this training as well. And then we also have the commissioner, who does have an extensive background, but we want to make sure that, if we go to court and, you're used as an expert witness, you have to prove that you're an expert witness. And if you don't have the background, that would be problematic.
Okay, that's all I had. I appreciate that we're going through these things. Thanks, Heather. And thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
All right. Pamela Boyd said she has no questions. Alderman Olenberg. I don't think he responded to the roll call. Alderwoman Lisa Middlebrook.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay. Alderwoman Evans.
No questions at this time.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I have a question pursuant to the Alderwoman from the 20th questions. Is there a particular certification for these positions, and what is it, if there is?
I don't think that there's the civilian oversight is something that's new, not, significantly new, but I don't believe that there is a certification that's required, just like, law enforcement officers or someone that's a fireman. You have to have certifications for that job. However, with this, it's not something that's probably standard, but we want to make sure that if we have any challenges to decisions that are made, you have people that have the training, they have the experience to make those decisions.
So I guess to be specific, what type of training exactly will they be getting?
Oh, so some of it will be force investigative training, which is an extensive course that officers who are in the force investigative unit currently receives.
Now, where do they get that?
It depends. Most of it is not in this area, that's for sure, unfortunately. So there's training in Chicago, some other areas in the Midwest, some other areas on the East Coast and West Coast as well. And so the courses generally run from about $450 and above. And then you also have the travel. So they have to travel there and they're not going to pay for that themselves.
I guess more specifically, again, who sponsors these courses?
So these are licensed courses that are provided by either private entities that are certified, courses through national standards. It could be the Police Chiefs Association or something like that, but it will be a certified course where they receive certifications after they complete the course. Some of these courses will last 4 to 5 days.
I thought you said they would not get any certification.
There is a certification you're given a certificate upon completion of the course. These courses are 8 hours a day, sometimes 4 to 5 hours, 4 to 5 days a week. So yeah, you leave out of there with the certification that you attended this training, that you've gained the knowledge of this investigation.
And then I guess the next question I have is I'm going over the new positions and then the salary structure. How did you arrive at the salaries for these positions?
That's just standard. You can only go within the standard range for the job classification. And that's how we arrived at those salaries.
Standards according to
with the pay ordinance. We just went with what was the standard with the pay ordinance, the starting salary for those job classifications. And so you went with the very first amount.
And you have applicants for all of these positions?
We don't now, because it's not officially in the budget. Once it's in the budget, then we will hire.
Okay, but you're seeking a new commissioner at this point. We
have hired a new commissioner. We've hired the commissioner because that was already in the budget.
Okay, so this will be a completely new civilian oversight employee all the employees, but the board will remain pretty much the same.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. That's all I have. Are there any other alder people on the call that would like to ask any questions? Okay. I guess not. So we can move on to our next department. Unless Ms. Taylor, would you like to add anything else to this before we close?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So I see no other aldermen on here that would like to ask questions. So we'll move on and we will deal with Randall Morning and Frank Oswald from the Building Division. It's all yours, guys. Unmute.
Unmute. Okay, you got me unmuted. All right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for taking the time and to listen to us, and hopefully we will not keep you very long. Our budget is pretty much a status quo budget. We did add a couple of positions. We added in our 1010 positions a zoning lead person. The reason we're doing that is we need more people to investigate some of these conditions at these places, particularly gas stations, particularly convenience stores and stuff like that. And, you know, we need to be more accurate with our investigations in general. And I think this will give us the opportunity to do that. So that's one thing we added. And then the other thing we added was a plumbing inspector. That just equalizes us across the board with electrical, mechanical, and plumbing, all having 6 inspectors. We used to have 6 plumbing inspectors, and quite frankly, we had to cut one out because of budget problems in the past. And, you know, with all the construction and stuff, we just need that position again. And over in our 1110 budget, got just a few positions. We added, I believe, 2 building inspectors. Those are primarily going to be used for our Prop NS program. As most of you know, Prop NS is doing wonderful things. I think we've got well over 100 buildings. I think it's like 116 buildings in the process of being substantially rehabbed to the point of, you know, then being able to sell them. And I'm happy to report that, you know, we're working with CDA on this and then selling them on their website. And so far, it's just going as well as I could have ever imagined. You know, the only thing that's taken time, honestly, is just, you know, the administrative stuff with all the stuff we have to go through. And then it'd be nice to have even more contractors, but we all know how it is getting help nowadays. So the other thing that's in here is what's the other position?
We have manager 1.
Oh yeah, we have a manager 1 position in there, and yeah, and that's in the SDF as well. And the reason we're doing that is because, you know, we're all getting older up here. And quite frankly, there's a number of my managers who are getting close to retiring, as well as myself. So we're trying to do some planning here, you know, and try to actually have some people set in position to take over in these positions, because it's critically important in my in that we have a smooth transition in the future. And then the last thing I wanted to kind of talk about was the fact that we have a $5 million preservation fund. And I think that's one of the most important things we've done for the city in a long, long time. This fund is going to be set aside essentially to have the city go out and repair privately held, privately owned buildings, probably primarily those that are of historic and architectural significance, in which we've got, you know, the recalcitrant property owner who's just sitting on the property, not wanting to actually put any money into it, but just benefit from all the other development that other people are doing around them. And I know many of you, if not everybody there, can think of examples in their ward, including Vice Chair Howard, who's got a smirk on her face, and I understand why. So this is kind of going to be a joint effort. It's just not all put together at this point, but as I envision this, it's going to be a committee of people who make those selections, primarily run by Don Roshop and Lou over in the Cultural Resources Office. And my people will actually be involved in doing all the scope write-ups, all of the work on it, overseeing the work, issuing the permits, all that kind of stuff. So that pretty much is my budget in a snapshot. And historically, I find that you guys often have questions. So why don't we just open it up for questions?
Thank you, Frank. Alderman Boyd. I don't think he's here yet. Alderman Vaccaro is still with the physician. Alderwoman Spencer, questions?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Thank you, Commissioner. I did have a couple questions about the preservation fund.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not exactly in this budget though, right? We're not seeing it here. I see the request and I'm assuming. Does the preservation fund, Frank, go through the building division? Is it part of the budget, or is it separately funded?
I believe it's actually I believe that is actually going to be a separate line item that they're doing, but it's not in my regular budget. Yes, you're correct.
Okay,
But
but
I
it
think
has. Sorry.
It's American
it's
Rescue.
yeah,
Act.
it's the ARPA funds. Yes.
Right. And so because it's the ARPA funds, are we setting it up as sort of a revolving situation in that we can invoice the owners and recoup?
Yes, absolutely. One of the things we'll be doing is working very closely with Mia over in the problem properties unit. We've discussed this with her at length and with Matt Moak. And, they've been excellent as far as partners and, getting these folks to go ahead and pay back money when we spend money on buildings and stuff. So absolutely, yes.
And so the vision would be that it could keep going beyond the funding of the ARPA funding. Is that correct?
That is correct. That it would, always be going back into this fund. Every time we get something paid back, it would go back to the fund so that we could just continue this $5 million forever.
That's great. And you talked about it a little bit, but the process for determining and selecting the properties, I think there's no shortage of privately held properties that need work and for which these, this could be, they would be great candidates. But obviously with $5 million, it sounds like a lot of money, but $5 million goes very quickly when you're talking about dilapidated, buildings that need a lot of structural work.
Sure.
So could you, who will be making the decisions on the properties that we'll be applying these funds to?
Yeah, I've had some conversations with Lou Mesto over in Cultural Resources. And, I think it's kind of important that the building division, since we're doing the work, that we're not the ones, quote, selecting it. And I think it makes more sense for that to be a committee. And she hasn't, we haven't come to a finalization as to what it would be as far as who would be on that. But, I can see a couple of citizens and a couple of, people from various departments, things like that. Obviously, planning and cultural resources makes a lot of sense. And the idea would be that anybody could nominate something very similar to what we do with the Prop NS type stuff. It just hasn't been decided yet.
And that's going to be decided by?
Probably this is an administration thing. The administration along with them.
Okay. Well, that's very helpful. Obviously, this is a great thing for the city to be able to go in and start to address some of these privately held properties. So I'm really grateful to see that. And I think we all know how important the building division is to the functioning of our city. So thank you for your work. And I'm glad that we have a continuous budget here. That's all I have, Madam Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you. Alderwoman Boyd?
I have no questions.
Okay. Alderman Olenberg, have you signed on? I don't think so. Alderwoman Lisa Middlebrook?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay. Alderwoman Evans?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the board and members of the people that are assisting us this morning. I have a question, and the question is, you have funding for privately held buildings. Is that my understanding?
Yes, ma'am. Historically, one of the problems, Alderwoman, is that, and this could be at a small level as far as just a single family in somebody's neighborhood. But, what I've experienced in my last 33 years here is that, citizen puts in a complaint about a building, let's say it's vacant or not even vacant, it's just a really bad property as far as the owner not wanting to repair it. I've had circumstances where people will tell me they are not going to repair it, even though they financially have the resources to do it. It's a real draw in the neighborhood, and it's really unfair to the people around there who take care of their properties. And then we typically would send them to court. We might fee them, that kind of stuff. And to be honest with you, courts just don't do a great job with property code violations. It's very difficult for, first of all, it's a misdemeanor, but if you live around it, it's a real problem all the time. This will give us an opportunity in those rare circumstances where somebody really won't fix their property, that we can actually go in there and fix it. And then we put that cost of those repairs onto their tax bill. So if they don't pay it, the city's in a spot to go ahead and take their property. So, it would be a very rare circumstance that we do that kind of thing, but I think we really need it. On a bigger scale, it's particularly, these larger buildings that somebody's sitting on, speculating in neighborhoods, both north and south, it's everywhere, where they're just essentially waiting on the area to be developed so they can profit off off of somebody else's hard work. There's plenty of that around, and I think it's important that, again, we are requiring people to meet minimum exterior standards on these buildings. That's all. We're not going to go in there and make them all fancy and nice, but you have an obligation if you own a piece of real estate, if you own a piece, a building, that you've got to meet our minimum exterior standards. And that's a roof, that's, essentially 4 walls, that it's, painted, that it's tuck pointed, those type of things. So that's why it's important as far as I'm concerned. It's a neighborhood stabilization thing.
I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
Say, for instance, you have someone on the block that it doesn't have 4 walls, it has 3.
Mm-hmm.
And the rear is like missing. So what do you do in that situation?
Well, that's one of those ones again, where if it's if it's a building that is too far gone, we certainly can demolish it and take it down. I think this will give us an opportunity in these areas. If this is a private, a privately held building, for example, this is a perfect example. We could demolish it, take it down, and charge the owner for the cost of that demolition. However, if you as the alderwoman and your neighborhood thought that this is an extremely important building and the preservation people thought it was really important to the character of that particular block or that neighborhood, that's one where we could go ahead and we could do like we do with the Prop NS stuff. We could go ahead and, repair the walls, put a roof on it, make it watertight, basically seal it up so that it's good for another 25 to 50 years, even if somebody doesn't touch it. And then we can bill that owner for the cost of it. Now, in a circumstance like that, I'll bet a lot of these people are going to say, I'm going to walk away from it. So it ends up becoming the city's property. And that's fine and dandy because we're having a really great level of success with LRA as far as, redoing these properties and then reselling them to people who will either put the, work in themselves to finish off the inside or to, go ahead and contract that out. So I think it's a win-win situation.
Okay, I have another situation where it was an NS nominee that had work done on it, but it still needs a lot of other work done on the building. So do these funds cover that?
No, they would not cover that. That if it was an NS building, did it sell already? Most of them have sold.
I think so, because
Yeah.
the sign is not there on the
Yeah.
door anymore. So
Yeah,
then it's,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It's
That's okay.
part of the part of LRA's responsibility is to follow up on these folks as they get it. I believe they have a year to 2 years to show that they're going to go ahead and have a level of, cooperation, repair on the buildings, that type of stuff. So.
okay. And one more question, then I'm gonna let you go.
No, that's quite all right. That's why we're here, man.
If there, say for instance, there's a vacant property that it doesn't look like it needs any renovation or whatever, but it does totally on the inside, are these funds good for that or what?
No, all I can do legally is make them meet minimum exterior standards.
Oh.
Now, if they have somebody who's actually living in that unit, we can use our power of condemnation and stuff like that, if they'll let us in. But I can't go inside and, redo somebody's home, but we can save the building essentially. And that's what's really important in my opinion.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Frank, thank you very much. I have two questions pertinent to what you were talking about, the zoning specialist. So we're going to have two Myras. Since Myra's gone, we hadn't replaced her, had we?
Correct.
Okay. So
we're adding that position back is what we're doing. We're calling it a fee. Yes. I've been,
good.
With budgets the way they've been the last few years until recently, we've been sending our regular zoning plan examiners out to do this kind of stuff.
Okay, like Dylan and those people over there.
Correct.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so hopefully this will add another person and we'll be able to, I'm not saying they won't do it at all, but, hopefully I can keep enough people in the office to keep permits and stuff going, and that's something I should mention too, is, we're busy as all get out, which is fabulous for the city of St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have had banner years, through this whole COVID thing. It is just amazing how, and I have to give the credit to my staff, my front office people, who are, 99% ladies out there have just worked their fingers to the bone to keep up with everything during the worst of the worst times. And, we brought in, what was it, 21.2 million last year. So that's pretty good for an office of basically 5 people.
And you deserve as many people as you can, because we need, I would like to see us get back to the regular rolling inspections, but that's a subject for another conversation out here. The other question I have is with this building containment on problem properties. Have you looked into maybe, I noticed that some of the people that are I guess, regular customers as far as building violation codes, play the game with, they don't pay their taxes, then they pay them, or they make a plan for incremental payments. Have you tried to work with our collector of revenue on any of these things, on maybe putting a freeze on people that are doing this?
Yes, in fact, Mia and the city councilor's office and I have all met with them, and they've agreed to go ahead and work with us on any of these ones where we're wanting to do. What city councilor can do is they can actually, if we spend money on it, they can have a special tax suit where you don't even have to wait for that. They file it in court and they ask for collection right away.
But these are people that you've already done work for, but I'm talking about people that are just playing the game. In other words, just paying, getting on a payment plan, paying enough to get off the tax, to get it off of the tax sale. Is there any movement on that? Any thought?
Yeah, the collector's office is willing to work with us on that kind of stuff, and we've had some. We just have to make sure that we make them aware of it.
Okay.
It's a combination of things. Our responsibility here in building. I need the NSOs to be helpful on that as well, and if, you elected officials, whenever you have something like that, to let us know. So
Okay. All right. I don't know if there's any other members of the board that are on this call that have any questions for our building commissioner. I guess not. So we are done. Have a good day. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, I'm
Alderwoman
sorry. I had to wait till I pulled over to ask the question.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Thank you. That's okay. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Frank and staff, for coming. The question I have, I'm excited about you with looking at being more aggressive with these people that just letting these buildings sit. But are we looking at, I'm going to say professional, commercial buildings also, because that's a problem that we're dealing with also?
Yeah, I honestly think that you'll see some significant commercial ones. I think we have to look at this holistically for the city as a whole, but when we have really important commercial buildings in a particular area and we need to spend $500,000 or something like that, I think we need to do that. And yeah, there's a couple of them that come to mind immediately. Absolutely. Probably more commercial than, because in my opinion, when we do a couple of these big commercial ones, we're going to get some, I'm going to need some lawyers on my side. And I know they'll be able to defend me, and they'll be able to, get some, we'll get something done here, whether they do it themselves or whether we do it. But sooner or later, we'll end up doing one. And we know that'll make the media. Somebody will be upset about it and all that kind of stuff. But it'll really send a message to other people too. Other people who want to sit on these problem properties and, just want to wait around for the, economic times to make a killing. It's going to send a message to them when they know that we're doing that. And the minute we send that first letter that says, hey, we're going to do this, they're going to get us in court. And that's fine. Our attorneys do a great job in court. So I'm looking forward to it.
And I applaud everybody that's coming to the table to look at, we're looking at doing things differently, and we know staffing is an issue. I just feel kind of some way because you all are asking for staff, and the challenge throughout the country is people wanting to work. And so I just think it's a catch-22. You know, you all are saying you want staff, and say, you know, we say, okay, they need the staff, but you're already challenged with getting staff at the table. So I just hope the best for your department. And I've always been an advocate to push to say, we need these inspectors and we need these people in our communities. And as Alderwoman Howard said, we need those building inspectors to do those inspections for our buildings. But I just think it's just a challenge for us as a country to get people to want to come and really work. And I think, hope the best for you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. You're absolutely correct. I mean, at the moment I think we got a requisition in for 10 building inspectors, I will say our personnel situation, I think, has gotten a little better under Director Moten over there. And, they're certainly trying to be a little more cooperative and working with us. The other thing that I think is helping us is, continuing to use technology. By the end of summer, we will have our web-based permitting system completely online, in which, you see those giant rolls come down here of plans and stuff like that. So all of our architects and engineers who do that will be able to do that all electronically very shortly here. So that will help us too. We spend some reasonable amount of money doing this, but again, we're 30% down in the way of staff of what I had when I took over, 20 years ago. So it more than pays for itself. So again, thank you for everybody's support over the years. I do appreciate you folks.
Thank you, and please consider the rolling inspections, bringing those back if you can get your staff up to full complement. Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you so much. All right.
I'm actually here now.
Alderman Vaccaro, do you have any questions of the building commission?
Well, no, I'm out of the doctor's office, but my question, did I hear him at the beginning say he's thinking about retiring? Or am I thinking that?
We're all thinking about retiring.
I probably a year from October.
Well, you can't retire anytime in the next 5 or 10 years. I'm going to do a board bill that says you can't retire.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you.
So just keep that in mind.
All right.
All right, we're going to move on. Thank you
Okay.
so much. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Building Commissioner and Mr. Morning. I appreciate you so much. We're going to move on to the SEMA at this point, and I will turn it back over to Ms. Taylor.
Yes, we have Sarah Russell there on the line, and Sarah, I'll have you take it from here.
Morning. Thank you, Heather. So just as far as SEMA is concerned, there was some, I'll say ambitious but necessary requests that came into our budget. For many years, the agency has been very small and has not been able to grow along with the things that we're tasked with accomplishing. So that was really what was reflected overall in the budget that I presented, the request that I presented. We do have some things, and I prefer to try and be more proactive than reactive. I think I tried to sell that point last year as well to this group, but we're facing some costs in the future, particularly with respect to some of our facilities. Our emergency management operations center has some needs in the immediate to remain operational when we're active, and along with daily monitoring, but also our city unified command vehicle, which we are charged with maintaining, which is also a regional asset that is capable of being requested and deployed throughout our region. Of note, it was deployed to the Amazon warehouse following the tornado in December. That vehicle is approaching its 10th birthday, if you will. So, you know, if you think about it, this is a truck that is outfitted with technology. We had a camera system upgrade that was funded through our local emergency planning commission within the past year, but we are working on desktop computers within that vehicle that are approaching 10 years old. So you can imagine the functionality and the length of time spent on updates every time we try to turn it on or turn it off. That's something that we would like to look at being better positioned to address down the line. We don't typically have a lot set aside in our budget for that. You know, we're still much more reactive than we are proactive, even when we try to plan for things. So that's part of my goal, is to better spread that out, better prepare for that ahead of time if possible. And that, you know, feeds over into other things that we have as far as satellite systems, phone systems, other data connectivity equipment that we have in all of our facilities that we manage for the city. It's somewhat difficult because we don't necessarily use those every day. Some of them we do, some of them we don't, but we need to keep them in a state of readiness at all times. You know, a lot of people don't like to think about disasters, but that's what I get paid for. So I try to think about those times when, if we have to go and flip a switch right now, would this work easily? Would it work effectively and keep us providing the services that we need to do? I think that within our budget, you know, we did get some additional funds versus what we've seen in the past number of years. But I really want to just bring to your mind, you know, we are seeing many more emergency situations. We know we have some things in the city that, you know, SEMA in particular, I would prefer for us to be able to, you know, be more proactive in addressing. You know, I saw some of the flooding that we had over the past several days and in some of the neighborhoods, and I stood there, you know, with MSD staff. You know, I would like to be able to have us, you know, meet more regularly and look at problemed areas, look at communicating with people and the hazards and how we can mitigate some of that. You know, we know that a lot of times the sewers will overcharge because there's garbage and debris in there. You know, I would like to see us be able to have much more productive and frequent conversations, and we're not capable of doing that with the staff that we have allotted. And that's just one example of something that I would like to be able to see us as an emergency management agency be able to do with the staffing that we have. It is very difficult. I know we're trying to work on some different avenues to increase that. But I just kind of want to lay that foundation. I don't really have anything too specific. I'll let questions kind of lead our conversation, but just to, you know, kind of lay that framework of, you know, we're tasked with a lot of things. We have to write and maintain the emergency plans for the city. This includes a lot of different appendixes for specific things. Our access and functional needs registry folks that, you know, we plan specifically for that population to make sure that we have, you know, proper responsibilities outlined in how we will help them navigate emergencies as well. We look at catastrophic planning as well as special events planning. We're seeing a return to our special events, and that oftentimes will require our staff to be on site. You know, right now our functional staff is myself and one other person. So when we're on site on Saturday or Sunday, then we're also, you know, working Monday through Friday to ensure that we're keeping up with our meeting schedules and the commissions and things that we serve on from a local and regional perspective, to make sure that we have plans in place, that we have training for both the public and the first responders and anyone that's involved which could be any city department. Just being able to do what we need to do on the daily. We need to plan to expand and better meet those needs, and that's really my goal with presenting the budget as I've presented it. So I'll limit myself there and leave it open to anyone's questions.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. At this time, I would like to open it up to the committee members, and we'll call them in order of seniority. Alderman Boyd. I don't think he's joined us. Alderman Vaccaro.
No real questions. I thank you for doing a really good job. She's also one of my constituents, but it's nice every time that there's a warning that comes across my phone. And I agree, they need more of a staff, and we should work on that. For two people, they do a tremendous job. So anyway, thank you. I just want to say thank you for the work you do. And, I agree 100%. They need more of a staff, but thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Vaccaro. I had a question in the chat. Earlier we started, this is sort of off subject, if you'd be patient with us, Ms. Russell. The meeting is not being streamed. Is there anyone from STL TV that can explain if they've gotten that fixed or not?
Hi, Alderwoman Howard. I am still working on the issue. I'm just having some issues right now, but it is being recorded. And as soon as, if I can get this.
It'll be at least put up after it's recorded. Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. We'll move on to Alderwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. And Sarah, thank you for being here today. I know we talked last hearing about, last year, excuse me, about the sirens and potentially shifting. I guess from a broad perspective, it's nice to see that you have some additional funding for staff. But the ambitious request was not fully realized. Is that, am I understanding this correctly? So we've got an increase, a slight increase, maybe of one additional person. Is that what I'm reading correctly?
That is correct in the budget that's recommended at this point. Yes.
Okay, so that would be a total of 3 people, 3 staff persons.
If we fill that position, we do have 2 open positions that are already on our books. So we just have two bodies right now that are operational SEMA employees.
Okay, and then with this new budget, we'll have that 2 will increase to, or at least from a budgetary perspective, not necessarily from a hired perspective, will increase. We're increasing by 1 person for a total of
5 for SEMA, and then the 2 that are separated under the ARPA funding that are for the ARPA project.
Okay, all right, thanks, Sarah. And then can you tell us a little bit about the sirens and what we're, from our last hearing, I did some research at your suggestion and was really impressed with kind of that forefront at which we were sort of, you were speaking as far as emergency management is concerned. And then when we had the tornado the other day, some residents were wondering whether or not the speakers were working. I, for one, always have an extraordinarily difficult time trying to understand what in the world they might be saying and find them to be somewhat confusing, because you can tell it's like, that teacher from Peanuts, Charlie Brown, no clue what is actually being said. So, and that's a function of the very old technology. But if you could inform us about the proactive work you've been doing on that front and kind of your if we're moving forward with any of those recommendations.
Certainly. So I have been working, with some other folks. That was one of the projects that I submitted as a capital project this year. So there is funding that is being, I don't know if it's appropriated or funding that is being looked at to do a system replacement. So that is in process and does not necessarily, is not necessarily reflected in the budget that we're looking at today. But we are looking at a system replacement. I've had some conversations both internally and working on getting some information from a vendor that we work with and looking at what that process might look like. But again, we're a year older, and in the system that I spoke about last year, we're experiencing many of the same concerns and issues. The voice being one that's a very long-term issue. I do have a good elevator pitch for all of that, and you are not alone. So I can recite that in my sleep. The voice is not something that's easy to hear. Many systems, experience that same issue. So we're also not alone in that. I can tell you though, if you hear the siren and it's not the first Monday of the month or the statewide tornado drill that happens every March, it means to please go inside and find another source of information for much more detail than that. At this age, they're very unpredictable. We still have a lot of miscommunication, misunderstanding of where you're supposed to hear them, what it means when you hear them. I am working on a regional project right now with my emergency management counterpoints to hopefully spell out some more details and present some more education on being informed, not just sirens, but our Notify STL tool, local media, social media, different programs and methods for people to get information. It's not, and I think I've said this before, it's not one tool that covers everything. It has to be that layered approach.
Is that all, Alderwoman Spencer?
It is. So it sounds like the funding that is being considered but hasn't been appropriated. And so we will keep our eye out. Thanks, Sarah. And thanks to Madam Vice Chair. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Alderwoman Boyd, questions?
I have no questions. I appreciate them. I just have a statement to thank you all for
You're
coming for.
Alderwoman Boyd. Okay. There you are. We can see you now.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm multitasking, as a lot of us women do. But I wanted to thank FEMA because I don't think you all give yourself the props that you deserve, because I don't know if people realize they now do robocalls to residents, to warn residents, to tell them to go to the basements or whatever. So I think that's a plug for them that they forgot to talk about. But I think it's a department that's forgotten, and they do need the help, and they do need the dollars. So that's all I have. I was just advocating for them. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you very much, Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Oldenburg, have you joined us? I don't believe so. Alderwoman Middlebrook?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, Alderwoman Evans?
Yes, I have no questions other than, to thank them for their services. And that's all I have at this time. No questions.
Okay. And
you're doing a good job.
Thank you. Thank you to Ms. Russell. Ms. Russell, not to be redundant, and as you know, I had a little disruption there while the Alderwoman from the 20th was speaking. And I think I missed something here, but she was referencing some of your positions. And I noticed you have 1, 2, 3, 4 half-time positions allocated for the current fiscal year. And maybe you did already explain that, but could you briefly just kind of go over touch on that again?
Sure. There are 4 positions within SEMA, and this is a long-term practice that are funded half by our city funds, and then we have a half funding from a state a grant that we received through the state, the Emergency Management Performance Grant.
Okay.
And that typically is utilized for 3 positions, but we've been in that process for so long that we're still able to receive that funding for 4 positions.
Okay, so what we see here is just what the city's funding, but you actually have people on that are funded through grants.
Correct. So even my position is 50%
Yeah,
funded
was-
by the city, and I don't work half-time, I assure
That's
you.
what I was wondering. Okay, well, they got part-time employees.
No, that is absolutely not the case. No. So we have 2 funding departments, and still the legacy numbers, forgive me, 1010 and 1069. There's a half funding for each of those positions in each of those
Okay, so
centers.
the 1169 funds the remainder, I see. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. The other question I have is, we were talking about the sirens. There is allocated this year $25,000, but is that enough? And it says parts and supplies. Can we repair these sirens?
There's a lot of things that can go wrong. Let me start by saying that. So some repairs are possible. That amount, typically we've received 20,000 a year for the sirens, and that amount really covers the batteries that we need to purchase each year. The sirens run on battery power, and those batteries are charged using solar panels. So it's a radio-based system, so there's antennas on it. There's a number of speakers on top. There's a number of points where something can go bad and need replaced. The problem that we've been having for a number of years is our system is over 20 years old, so the parts are becoming more difficult to get. There have been improvements in the type of system that we have that allow for easier repairs, but we're not able to take part in that. So where in some cases now the new equipment, you can pull out the bottom speaker and replace some of the parts that go bad. Ours, we have to take the whole stack apart. So it involves renting a crane, and the vendor has a vendor has to do that. That's not something, SEMA doesn't have a lift truck. We do work with the street department to do some basic maintenance like changing the batteries. But anything that we do from a repair standpoint has to, go through a vendor process. We have to do a service call. And that's it's very difficult to do with that amount of money. We do have, right now I'm working with BPS. We had one siren that was knocked off the pole. And last week we just got the check reimbursement from the insurance to replace that. However, we have a $5,000 deductible now. So I'm working this week to figure out exactly where we take that $5,000 from, if that's, something now we take from that line on the current budget and reduce the amount of batteries that we buy, or, can we find it in another part of our budget, which we don't, if you look, we don't have a ton of places to be able to pull $5,000 from.
So I guess this is a question for another day, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What would it cost to replace our total warning system? Do we have any idea on that? I mean, you don't have to be succinct.
We do. My estimate was 4.5 million. I did meet with a vendor recently that was very impressed. The cost that he came to the table with was around 4.13. So that was relatively on target. I think there is a couple of improvements that we need to do. Part of a new system would be, again, to do another site survey. We know we've had a lot of development across the city since the last system was, spec'd and installed. So we do have, some places where things have grown. My example in speaking about it would be Cortex, for one, that looks a lot different than it did when the last system was introduced. And we need to make sure that, what we're speccing is going to give us adequate coverage.
So is there any movement to apply any ARPA funds to this? This to me would be something that would be an investment for the future, that would be a one-off kind of thing.
I don't know that ARPA is one program that's been looked at specifically for this. I think there were some other funds that are being looked at more closely.
Okay, all right. Well, that's all I have. Is anyone else on the call? Any board members that would like to ask questions? Okay, that's all we have. We'll move on to our next. Okay, so we're done for today. Okay. Anybody else have anything to add? Okay, well, tomorrow we'll convene at 9 a.m. and we'll have on our agenda the health department and the streets department. And at this point, I will take a motion to close the meeting, to adjourn the meeting.
So move.
Hearing no objection. The Ways and Means budget hearing is closed for today, and we will again reconvene tomorrow, Tuesday, May 24th. Thank you very much.